Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Well, as we've already heard from Sophie Ridge, the first hustings of the Labour leadership contest are taking place tonight between Jeremy Corbyn and his challenger, Owen Smith. Of course, the aim is to prepare the chances of the party actually winning a general election and forming a government. In a moment, I'm going to be talking to Professor Justin Fisher, a professor of politics at Brunel University. First, though, let's just have a look at the challenge facing the Labour Party. Now, this is how things stand at the moment. Theresa May's popularity 42%, Jeremy Corbyn 28%. So the Conservatives are massively ahead in the opinion polls at the moment. And that's another poll also showing pretty much the same pattern. 43% for Theresa May's Conservatives, 27% for Jeremy Corbyn. Now, at the same point in his leadership, Ed Miliband for Labour was actually ahead 43% to David Cameron on 36%. So that clearly shows that Jeremy Corbyn is doing pretty badly. And if we actually look at leaders 10 months into the job, which is how Jeremy Corbyn has been there, we see the most popular, Tony Blair, massively approval ratings, plus 29%. Others, pretty much of a muchness. Michael Foot, hitherto the wooden spool holder, minus 32, but now rapidly outpaced by Jeremy Corbyn, whose net approval rating is minus 41. Should say this is amongst the general public, not amongst Labour supporters or Labour voters. And let's add Owen Smith to that, and you see his approval rating amongst the general public is actually +1, pretty much even Stevens. We can move on and look at the Labour leadership preference. Now, again, this is amongst the general public, not Labour supporters. And you see at the start of this leadership contest, it ends in the last week of September. Owen Smith is more popular with 29% there. However, what are their chances of winning the general election? This is the general public. Unlikely, say, just over half of voters under Owen Smith, but totally unlikely, say 70% of voters under Jeremy Corbyn. Followed then by what are the chances that this will split the Labour Party? People do think that if Owen Smith becomes leader, there's a 59% chance he'll split the Labour Party, just 17% chance for Jeremy Corbyn. However, some of their policies are actually quite popular. This is Owen Smith, who's saying that he's going to spend $200 billion in a New Deal, 79% like that. 54%, over half, like the idea of raising the top rate of tax to 50p. And 55%, I imagine particularly those on southern region, like the idea of renationalising the railways. However, the public is fickle, and this is why, perhaps given the popularity of those policies, Labour's not doing so well. 52%, and that's the majority, are in favour of renewing Trident, something Jeremy Corbyn opposes, but Owen Smith is in favour of. Well, let's bring in Justin Fisher at that point. Make sense of all that. Basically, what we're saying is the general public like Owen Smith, but the Labour Party like Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, that's true up to a point. I don't think the endorsement of Owen Smith from the general public is overwhelming, but we need to remember it's the general public that elect our MPs and elect the government in the longer run. And so it's important not to overemphasise the support that any one candidate has within the party itself.
And when you look at that battlefield, if you like, do you think there is anything to play for in this leadership contest, or is Jeremy Corbyn bound to be re-elected?
Well, if it's the kind of membership that elected Jeremy Corbyn last year, then one would suspect that that's the case. But of course, polls like the ones we've seen in the last few days, where the gap between the Conservatives and the Labour Party is growing, may well be a wake-up call. And of course, we don't know the composition of those people who signed up as the £25 supporters.
What do you mean, Labour supporters, even people who quite like Jeremy Corbyn, might think, well, look, we've got to win somehow, and maybe he's not the guy?
Well, there's some possibility of that. I mean, of course, he has a lot of supporters in the party who just want him to plough his own furrow, really, in a way, for the party to be a party of protest rather than a party of government. And that's what this debate is really about. It's less about the policies and more about whether Labour is about trying to win government or trying to pursue certain policies.
So what Jeremy Corbyn's not really serious about wanting to become Prime Minister?
Well, I mean, of course he wants to, but I mean, there's no indication yet that he's taken any kind of lead that's resounded with the public. I mean, the polls have been catastrophic. The electoral performance has been pretty poor. It was only just above poor in the council elections. Sadiq Khan won the London mayoral election rather than the Labour Party. So there's no indication yet that he's catching the public's imagination.
It's that old phrase, no compromise with the electorate, comrades.
There's an element of that. I mean, it's interesting from the graphics you were showing how he makes Michael Foot look good in the context of this. And 1983 has always been seen as a nadir of the fortunes of the Labour Party.
And what does this mean for Theresa May and her government?
Well, Theresa May has made a very good start as Prime Minister. She's very popular, and part of this growing lead is the bounce that she's getting. What's interesting is that whereas Ed Miliband got that bounce when he became leader, that's not been the same for Jeremy Corbyn. Now, there's trouble ahead for Mrs May. Obviously, the Brexit negotiations are going to be complex. There are going to have to be some cuts, which will make her less popular. But at the moment, it looks like she has the whip hand.
I mean, some Labour people are saying, well, probably the answer to this would be for her to call a general election. She's miles ahead. Why not do it? Renew her mandate and, in the process, perhaps show that Jeremy Corbyn's not electable. What do you think of that idea?
Well, there's a possibility that that could happen. Of course, we have the Fixed Term Parliament Act, but politics tends to trump those things in the long run. So she might be tempted to do it, but not just yet.
And what about the mood of the public, that sort of contradictory mood in favour of increasing the top rate of tax, in favour of Trident, but in favour of renationalising the railways? What should we make of that?
Not very much, I think. People always liked the Liberal Democrat policies of putting up tax, but then people didn't bother voting for them. What matters is confidence in the leader and confidence in the economic credibility. And as things stand, the Labour Party doesn't have those things.
So they would, if they're serious about power, they would be well advised to think about an alternative to Mr Corbyn.
On the basis of the polling data so far, one would imagine that's the case.
What do you think is going to happen?
I suspect that Jeremy Corbyn will probably win. But the issue won't end there. You can't have a situation in a party where the vast majority of MPs are opposed to the leader, and yet he still struggles on with the grassroots supporting him.
Well, you can see the live debate there continuing. We'll have full reports here on Sky News. Both sides have been booed, according to Sophie Ridge at various times. Badge there saying, save our steel on Jeremy Corbyn. Thank you very much.
I've been getting away with it all